Hello everyone. All right. It's Ms. Kim of KimEaster.com. You can also search for our ever-expanding library of videos over at our YouTube channel, Web Savvy Cafe. I'm a web developer and marketing consultant, and one of the things that has helped me to have tremendous growth in reaching my goals is my interest in self-development. And it is for this reason that we're all here to support each other in our personal development journeys. The book that I chose is co-authored by Steve Harvey, and the title is Act Like a Success, Think Like a Success. Discovering Your Gift and the Way to Life's Riches. You should absolutely buy this book right now. They have several versions. You can purchase the book, Kindle version, even an audio book version that's read directly to you chapter by chapter. And then after you finish each chapter, you can come back here and follow along with the audio discussion. The assignment before our first class was to read the introduction as well as the first chapter and complete the short exercise. So let's get started with a short discussion. I'm hoping that everyone got a chance to read it. I did say that I had copies of the book available, so let's just get right into it. The biggest thing that you should be happy about today is that you're here. And that's the first step in any self-development, is being there, jumping in. You may not be sure about what's going to happen, but you know that it's going to be helpful. And so the most important thing is to show up, like Steve says, and engaging in a process like this will help to retrain your brain from the years of habitual things that you do. So the Bible talks about, be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed in the renewing of your mind. So that's exactly the reason that I'm here. I wanted to read this book, and I wanted to share this opportunity with those of you that wanted to take this journey as well. So let's all support each other in our continued self-development and in becoming fulfilled. This has to be interactive, by the way, in order for this to work, and you need to be ready to really go deep and do the work. So I hope everybody is ready. You got to do like Ayanna Van Zant says. I love it. She says, you got to put your big girl panties on. So in this case, we have men as well, and we're going to put on our big girl and big boy pull-ups or underwear on. So let me give you a couple of notes. I would suggest that you get a journal or a notebook for this discussion so that you can go back to it. You can take all your notes in it. You can do your actual work in it. The exercises would be great to put in this journal or notebook. And we're going to use this group as a team of accountability partners and for motivation. Okay. Just want to give you something that you can look at. Steve Harvey has a website, and it's actlikeasuccess.com. And he also has a page on Facebook, and there's an actual group that's on Facebook that discusses what he talks about, as well as he did I can't remember, I know it was on the East Coast, but he actually did a huge symposium, and it was going to be on tour out here on the West Coast as well, but it didn't work out, and so they just kept it there. I think it was maybe Maryland. Don't hold me to that. I can't remember. But he also has a Twitter, Act Like a Success, and you can act like a success when you want to write him. the ampersand, and then act like a success. And then you can hashtag him at hashtag I am success for anything that you have recognized from reading his book that has helped you and that you want to testify about. So you can give your testimonies by doing that. Okay, so let's begin with the beginning. The intro of the book is titled "Your Gift is Calling. Are you ready?" Interesting. This is something that each of us has to answer for ourselves, because some of us haven't already recognized what our gift or gifting is. And so for Steve, really feeling he said the joy and the contentment and the true alignment with God's purpose for him. That's what makes him really feel good. And your life has to be more than just waiting for the right opportunity to come along and find you, he mentioned. And it has to be more than just marking time watching others achieve success. And that really resonated with me, because there's nothing wrong, let me put a caveat here, with watching your favorite show, or if you're into team sports, football or what have you. But if you find that you're taking the majority of your time outside of work or business activities watching these people, what you're doing entertaining yourself by watching them is you're watching these people achieve their success. And you have a very special gift too. You just have to find it or cultivate it. So continuing on, the book is divided into 3 different parts, and there's chapters within each part. Part 1, to me, was all about becoming brutally honest and digging deep about overcoming our fears, releasing limitations, and just all in all taking the lid off. Part 2 was about your gift or your gifting, and Steve talked about creating vision boards in that part. And then part 3, he discusses ways to enhance your gift. So I would have wanted to share with you this video that Steve did, where he was talking about how everyone who comes with you cannot go with you. And he told a story about one of his closest friends as he was growing up as a young man. But when Steve invited him to come and visit him at the hotel that he was staying at, the man really clowned at the hotel, and it was embarrassing to Steve. So he said, you have to really be careful. You don't just not talk to people or stay away from them, but there's certain people that you're just not going to be able to bring with you. And so I'm sure that we all have some people in our lives. And it's not to say that you're better than that person. It's just that that person is not on the same path that you are. And if you don't want severe embarrassment, you have to learn how to let them go when you're trying to accomplish certain things in your life. So let's go into the beginning of part 1. Let's see, it was called When Enough is Enough. That's part 1. And chapter 1 is titled I'm Tired of Myself. So can anybody come up with some times where they have been tired of themselves? I know sometimes I do, and I think about the things that I'm procrastinating on, and I'm certainly self-aware of that. I'm sure that you have had those times as well, but most of the time we just shrug it off. The difference between people that become successful and those that don't are the ones that decide or choose not to shrug it off. They actually take action and they do something about it. So let's talk about your dreams. Everybody has a dream, or everyone should have a dream. Let's talk about dreams. Can somebody give me a dream that they have had that has actually come to pass, or a dream that they have now? And some people have several dreams, so don't be scared. Unmute and give. Go ahead and give a dream that you've had.
Let's see. I have something at first, but I can't remember. I'll have to give me a second.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
This one dream I had was to graduate high school in general, but I would keep that. So I'm happy about that, obviously.
Okay.
Right now, I'm trying to get through college. Taking a little break right now, but just trying to get through college as well. So that's one thing.
Okay, that sounds like a good dream. So you know that you got work to go along with that, and if you haven't already written down your goals and then steps to get to those goals, then that's something that I'd like to challenge you to do, because there's something about actually putting something down on paper and you looking at it, over and over and over, and actually even saying it out loud, that does something to get you to move toward that dream or that goal. So that's great. I want to thank you for sharing. There's some people that have dreams that haven't been fulfilled yet, and they're becoming very bitter about it, or they're sad about it, or they don't think that they can actually do it. One of the examples that was given was the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, and the man actually stood up, and he was just telling people, the only thing standing between you and your goal is the bull-ass story you keep telling yourself as to why you can't achieve it. Again, these are the differences, between people who are successful and those who are not, that just remain in a sedentary lifestyle and always wonder, what if? What could have happened? I wonder, so he talks about having no more excuses and getting past that part in your life when you actually hear yourself making an excuse. A good resource for actually becoming aware of the excuses that you use is a book called Excuses Be Gone. It's by the author Dr. Wayne Dyer. And I found that book very interesting in helping you just to become not only aware of the excuses that you use on a daily basis, but actually doing something about it and changing the way you speak so that you won't continually come up with those excuses. Because we all make excuses. If you say that you don't make excuses, then, well, that's either a lie, or another excuse, because you don't want to say that you do. But could someone give me an idea of or just an example of some of the excuses that you've actually used in the past, or excuses that you're aware of that you use now? And then you can discuss what they're related to if you want to. You don't have to. I don't want to put anybody on the spot here, but this is what's going to help us actually grow in our journey to self-development and fulfillment. So if you want to unmute yourself, please go ahead and do so. And just, or you don't have to have excuses for yourself. It could be excuses that you've heard others say. Sometimes we pick up on those quicker, excuses that other people use rather than ourselves.
A lot of times one excuse I say is I'm too busy, or there's too much to do, or there's not enough time in the day. Any one of those things. They all go hand in hand with each other.
I've used that, and in general, when you use that, you know that you, I know anyway, that I have had the time. I just chose to use my time in an unwise manner, or maybe I prioritized something else or several other things over the one that was maybe more challenging to me. So I certainly, I've used those quite a lot. Steve says that you have to be open to using your gift to embrace your opportunities and change your life. So we're going to have to open up if we want to grow. And that's directly related to our fears in life. Fears that are related to your dreams. So I'll give you an example with me that I used to have this fear, but I was able to actually get rid of it. Was that I'd seen people, and I actually saw a show that came on TV for a while that was talking about lottery winners and how when they won huge lotteries that they actually became worse off than they were before they won, because they had a lot of problems with friends and family, and they actually became depressed and miserable. And so I remember realizing that I had that fear because I was interested in Publishers Clearinghouse and other lotteries, because I wanted to not only do for myself and my family and live a lifestyle of financial freedom, but I also wanted to help others. One of my dreams and my vision to this day is to open up a girls' center for self-esteem and technology. And it was just interesting that I did not realize that some of the reasons why I probably didn't play as often as I should have, or try to find locations where the odds were actually better, is because I was thinking like that. And the way I found out was I went to a conference called the MMI, or Millionaire Mind Intensive, and I remember they asked us a lot of questions, and they wanted you to write yes or no, and some of the questions were dealing with how do you feel about wealthy people, how do you feel about rich people, and a lot of that came out because a lot of people, the majority of the room said excuse me, that they thought that wealthy people were sneaky or wicked. So in that case, if you believe that, and that's down in your psyche, then why would you ever want to become one of them? So sometimes just figuring out what your fears are is a little bit more challenging, because you don't always see them on the top level. You have to dig down deeper for it in a lot of cases. So let's move along, keep it going to the next part of that chapter, which was called the comparison curse. Have you ever compared yourself to others to justify why you won't move forward in your dream? I mean, just think about that. If somebody has something that they want to say, just go ahead and unmute yourself and jump in. But An example of that would be, let's say you compared yourself to someone. Let's say you wanted to be a famous writer, and you compared yourself to some of the up and coming writers who had a lot of publicity. And so you might say to yourself, uh, by comparing yourself to them, and say, well, I don't have the writing ability that they do, or I don't have the people behind me to support me like they do, or I didn't go to this particular university that's known for churning out excellent writers. These are ways that we can compare ourselves to others, and in doing so justifying why we won't move forward in our dream, which in that case would be becoming a writer. So I like how Steve talked about that, because these are things that he's talking about that helps remind us of things that could be preventing us that we're not even aware of. The next section was about, it was titled, I'm Not Ready to Sit at the Big Table. You guys remember that, for at least in my home, during Thanksgiving, Christmas, any big holiday where we had the whole family over for dinner. All of the kids sat at little bitty card tables or on the floor or what have you, and when it was time to sit at the big table, when each of us, became older, and older, and, we were given that opportunity, some of us backed up, and we said, well, no, that's okay, because, secretly you wanted to have fun with the rest of your cousins, and, the grown-ups or the adults were, talking about things that just weren't interesting at all. But in life, you back up from the big table because, you have some, trepidation. You are a little bit fearful. You're not comfortable with it because it's outside of your comfort zone. You're not ready to come outside of that box right yet. And if because you can't see the big picture, what you're doing is you're limiting your gift. So we have to be aware of what we're saying to ourselves and change it to the positive. I remember when I lived in Atlanta, my pastors were Pastor Creflo and Taffy Dollar at World Changers Church International. And I remember him doing a sermon once. It was an actual series of sermons, and it was about being careful of what you actually say, and how your feelings were associated with your thoughts, and how your thoughts were associated with your actions, and how what you said was put out into the world, and how you hear it, and then how you began to react to that. So it's so important that when we catch ourselves saying things that are negative, Steve was saying, stop that, change that to the positive, so these are all self-defeating statements, and these statements that we say about ourselves, whether we say it aloud or in our minds, are recordings, like a broken record that just are stuck in our minds, and they're just played over and over and over again. So you have to catch yourself and flip the script 180 degrees, and that will get you on the road. Now, none of this, of course, is something that's going to happen overnight. You have to work at it. We all have to work at it. And one of the reasons why I did this session is because I wanted us all to be able to be accountability partners for each other, and help remind us of what we need to be doing. As a matter of fact, this is an excellent segue into the next part of the chapter, which is titled Get Fluent in the Language of Success. There are negative, self-defeating statements that we say, and we need to do the opposite of it and say something positive. So an example would be here's the negative one. I could never do that. Why don't you change that into I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me? Or another example would be I'm not smart enough. And you could change that into this will be challenging, but I will break it. Okay, so I'm going to call for some examples of that in a moment. Think about that. Think about a self-defeating or a negative thing that you say, and then turn it into a positive, and then say that. Okay, so could somebody give me an example of that? Someone that's not already said anything. I can see several people. So, oh yes, go ahead, caller. Hello.
Okay. So, yeah, I know that it can be a challenge to believe in a lot of things that you want to do that you have trouble with. So, I would say if you kind of like make small steps toward a goal that you have, then that'll kind of help you begin to believe that something is possible. And so then you won't be saying, I can't do that. And you'll start to begin to say, it may be possible. And so then once you start to believe it's possible, you'll start to take more and more actions on it.
Okay, I see. So your negative would be, I can't do that. But then after you have done the things that you suggested, then you can say, this is possible. I can do this. This can be done.
Right, and you might not believe you can do the whole thing, but I'm saying I think if you can say, well, what can I do that's small to get me moving in that direction? And so if you say, okay, let's say since you're trying to, you got 2,000 miles to drive someplace, and oh man, that's impossible, that's overwhelming. But if you say, you know what, I can break that into small chunks and say, okay, this day I'm going to drive 50 miles, and then the next day I'm going to drive another 50 or 75. So if you break it into chunks, then that can give you some hope into being able to do the entire thing.
Okay, great.
And pretty soon you won't be saying I can't. So the thing is, you won't be saying I can't do it anymore. By taking small steps.
Okay, I understand. Great. So can you give me a negative statement, self-defeating statement that you used to say, and then how you turned that around into a positive where you don't say that any longer?
Let's see. For me, I guess anything now for me that when I hear so many people say it's impossible or it can't be done or, not everybody, those kind of things. Whenever I hear any of those things, I just automatically, because I've been practicing this, I just always just assume that anything can be done. But here's the thing for me, though, is as long as I'm willing to, sacrifice and prepare for those opportunities, then, I still have the faith. Because I've seen it myself over and over that as long as I can believe that it's possible and start preparing for it, and I have seen things happen.
Okay.
And the big thing, too, is I would say this. For me, and just in general, I would say, as long as we not limit ourselves, that's the biggest thing I would say, is that we say, I can't do that because, so get rid of the because, and then you won't have that I can't do that anymore. So I think that really does work.
Okay, so that's what works for you. Okay. So that's great. That's great.
And the question is, how can I do that? Instead of, I can't do that, how can I do that? And you'll start getting ideas on how you can do that.
Okay, that's a good idea. Okay, so this is how this person has decided to do this in his life so that he can become a better and be more successful. So this is how he, instead of, it sounds like to me that it's not even a part of his vocabulary any longer because he's been studying this. So that's great. Thank you, Carla, for that information. I also want to share that, there are some things that when we all want to share the successes in our life, or let's back up and say the things that we're doing toward the manifestation of that success. And we talk to friends and we talk to family. So I just want to caution you on that while you are climbing that ladder, is that there are some people that are not going to understand what it is that you're trying to achieve. And those are probably the people that you shouldn't discuss everything that you're trying to do, because they'll try to sympathize with you, but then because they love you or care for you and they don't agree with what you said, then they're gonna turn it and say something negative about it. And when you're trying to achieve something in life, you cannot afford to have any naysayers around you. You have to stay focused. You have to have blinders on, like they do for horses sometimes at the racing course. If you've ever been, they have these devices that they stick on the head, and the horse can only see forward. That's what we need. And quite frankly, just like Steve said, there are some things that should only be shared in confidence, or not at all. Just with you and God. So that, I know, would definitely help you, because you don't want to keep hearing that, oh, you still doing that? It would be better to find people who have the same interests that you do, to talk with them about what you're trying to accomplish. So that's just a note. So the next part of the chapter was titled, "You Gotta Put Your Name on the Leaf." So I know that some of us are probably straddling the fence. I know I have at times. I still do, and I have to catch myself. I found that before you jump into something, before you jump into that gift or that gifting and just release everything else, you need to make sure that you've done your due diligence, and once you do your due diligence, make a choice. Okay, some people say a decision, but a decision is based on not just a lot, was based on a lot of information that you've compiled, and sometimes even once you compile it and you try to look at the pros and the cons, it's still difficult to make that decision. So if you get to the point where it's just still too difficult, then you just have to make a choice. There was a seminar that I attended called Landmark Forum. I would really suggest anyone that wants to get to their next level in life to check these people out. They were discussing how when you just make a choice, there is no rhyme or reason. It's like, do you want strawberry ice cream or do you want rainbow sherbet? Choose. And it's like, well, I like this because no, I didn't ask you why you like this and why you like this. Just make a choice, and it's okay, whatever that choice is. But once you step out on faith, don't turn back, because if you decide to turn back, then you're dealing with worry, you're dealing with grief, you're dealing with resentment. You're just not sure. Just stick with it, no matter what. And to tell you the truth, it is actually refreshing once you decide, you draw your line in the sand and say, this is it. An example of that for me would be when I decided to go into business for myself. It was, okay, am I going to remain a W-2er, or am I going to go into business for myself and take on all the hats that the people and the businesses that I've worked with have already taken care of and made it easier for me. So it was very difficult for me. But once I made that choice, because I had done the due diligence and I was trying to decide, but, the scales were weighed on both sides, and, you look at the pros and the cons, and you just have to step out there and make that choice. And that's what I did. And so I haven't looked back since then. So that's what pretty much a small synopsis of chapter 1. And then we go into exercise 1, which is titled Success Actions. And the actual instructions that were given was Steve asked us to start thinking and write down all of the excuses you've made in the last week. Now I want to add, or also visit ones that you've been using for quite some time. Okay, so let's think about that. Let's think about those excuses and get them down. Once you've done that, we were supposed to pick out the top 3. Now I want to add to that. Steve says top 3, so I'm going to give examples. I'm going to say worst excuses, the most damaging excuses, excuses that provide a barrier to the things that you want the most. Okay, so an example of, let's say, an excuse that I have used, and I'm aware of it now when I use it, is, oh, you know what, I don't have time to go and enjoy myself because I said that I was going to support my family in something that weekend. Well, okay, why can't you make time or make time for yourself and tell your family, which is very important to me, that I won't be available this weekend coming up. So if you need anything from me now, get it now. Okay. But a lot of times I would use that excuse because I was procrastinating in doing not doing something that I knew was going to, take me a lot of extra time, or something that I was going to feel guilty about. And sometimes I would feel guilty about actually going out and enjoying myself when I knew that my family needed me for whatever reason. So that's an example, because your family is going to always need you, but there becomes a time when they have to learn how to do for themselves, or either ask you ahead of time and not always count on you being there or taking you for granted. So, that's just one. I'm sure you can come up with many of your own, but come up with your excuses if you haven't already. I hope you did. And then circle or highlight your top 3. Okay. And then once you've done that, now, as a matter of fact, if you haven't already done it, leave some space between each one. And then the one that you circle, underneath that one, now write down an expectation to replace it. So an example of that would be where I just discussed about not having the time. Then an expectation to replace it would be, I will support you, or I will support my family on Friday afternoon, but on Saturday I have something for me to do. So the help that Steve gave us in coming up with these excuses is to say this: why I can't. Why I can't. I can't do this because I'm not able to do this because. And then for expectations, why I will. Why I will. I will do this because. I will do this when. I will do this because I'm important. I will charge my normal rate per hour because I'm a professional and I deserve to be highly paid. You know, things like that. So you can really get deep into this. So I suggest you do that. If you really want to get a lot out of this series, then you definitely need to not only read or listen. You know that Steve has an audiobook as well. But you can do the exercises and then build upon that every week. So now, does anyone have anything that they'd like to add or to suggest? Because that's the end of chapter 1. We're going to start up with chapter 2 next week.
Okay, so I would say something too is that what can help is to remove those things that you're saying, I can't do that because. I think that's one of the big ones, because if you're still, like, say, I can't do that because I've got this bill to pay. I want to do this, but I can't do that because I got this bill to pay. So then one thing you can do is get rid of the bill or start creating more bills, and then that will free you to be able to do the things you want.
Well, okay, so you're talking about ways to resolve that, but what we're talking about right now is just being aware of it, being aware of your excuses, why I can't, and then put an expectation on why I will. And then once you get those down, you can, of course, do what you're saying, which is to find ways to alleviate that. But right now we're just sticking with, just the top level and trying to figure out why, what these excuses are, and then changing it up by saying why I will, or actually affirming the opposite.
That's good.
Okay. Thank you.
I do understand that. And I think a lot of people get stuck after that part.
Okay, great. Okay, anybody else? Because I'm going to close it. It's been almost 45 minutes. The only other thing I wanted to add is 2 great resources. They're videos. The first one is by Les Brown, where he's speaking about why we fail to reach our goals. And the second one is by Steve Harvey, where he's giving us tips on how he has become successful. So I will leave the links to both of those videos in the summary underneath this video.
Well, I just want to quickly comment and say that it's a very great call, an excellent call, and I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate all the information you're trying to give out there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I really do, and I hope that this helps you and others the way that I know it's going to help me, because I'm dedicated to using the information that Mr. Harvey has provided. Okay, so that's it. Thank you, everyone, for attending the call. I hope you got a lot out of it.
I most certainly did. Thank you, Kim, for hosting the call. It's so good to be refreshed with positive information that can keep you on your toes. So thank you again. Really appreciate it. Talk to you next time.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you, everyone. Bye-bye now.